Oh, didn't realize that the stream stopped. OBS totally crashed. So I hopefully this picks back up automatically. I don't know. Probably not going to happen. Let's see. All right, hold on a second, folks. I'm going to let the stream run, but I'm going to try and grab the new link and share it on Twitter, and hopefully people can find it. It's my first time streaming on my new machine, so some hiccups here. Sorry about that. Okay, hopefully this all works. Yeah, not sure why OBS crashed. Probably because everything is hard. All right, so let's just start by trying to get the basic building blocks in place here. We're gonna think of this div as sort of like our body tag. And yeah. So let's start with this header. So I'll probably have like a div for the header that kind of holds the surroundings. And I guess we could probably just do like a header element with a nav inside of it. And this is going to have a chunk on the left that's going to have like the logo and all of the links. And then we're going to have a chunk on the right that sort of has the search and all that stuff. So let's throw in the search here. Let's throw in a button for that notification. I'll throw in a button for the drop down. And then over here, why don't we just grab this logo and extract that. So let's see, what's the size of this? 30 by 30. So maybe we'll do like a 32 by 32 artboard here. Drop this in, get it nice and centered, grab that out, and go to SVG OMG. All right, didn't copy. Copy as SVG. Let's grab that and throw. I'll probably be like a link to the home page sort of thing. And we can get rid of this background. Get rid of all these fills. So 32 is H8W8. And we'll just do like text indigo 600 or something like that. And we'll just set the fill to current color. All right, so it is showing up. We'll have to figure out the sizes and all that stuff. It looks like maybe Steve used a lighter color, 400. All right, so back to this view. Let's kind of get some stuff in place. We're gonna have like another link here for, let's get rid of this UI so we can actually fit everything. This will be dashboard, jobs, applicants. There's not going to be any Tailwind 2.0 anytime soon. I decided to just put everything into Tailwind 1.2. There'll be a Tailwind 2 one day, but I'm trying to ride 1.0 as long as possible until we've realized it's truly terrible, and then change it. Okay, so I'm going to find this bell icon that Steve designed somewhere. Bell, 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 bell. Where could it be? Here's Steve doing a little bit of work. I like to spy on him in Figma. There we go. Copy as SVG. Throw this in here. guess we should optimize this. Okay, current color. Actually, this is using strokes, so let's get rid of the stroke here. We'll do fill none. Stroke, current color. Okay, we'll figure out the sizes later. Got an avatar here, which, if I remember right, we made this 32 by 32 or 40 by 40. I think we're actually going to size that down, but yeah, we'll just like grab someone off Unsplash here. Woman profile. This is usually how Steve finds his stuff. I always like to take 2 seconds just see if we can find the same one. Just so it makes it nice when we compare what we ended up with versus the design. See how close we can actually get, but if we can't find it, then I'll just resort to something else. I think Steve says profile photo or something. That's what he searches for. What else is going on in this photo? Nothing. Woman's sunglasses, maybe? Will we find it? Will we find it? If not, we'll just grab someone else's sunglasses. Surprisingly hard to find the same image, even when you know Steve didn't spend like a million years picking out the right one. He just picked like probably the first one on the page. Steve uses this one a lot, so we'll just use this one. Copy image address, and this is a trick I like to do that people have seen me do before. You can fit it to the face area, and then we can do like a width of like 256 and a height of 256, so we get kind of a square. And then there's this like face pad parameter that lets us add some padding around the face. Usually 2 is like a pretty good default. Yeah, now we got like a nice image. All right, so let's stick that in here. And so this is all in a 1180 container. So we can imagine that what we've done here is basically used Tailwind's like container class. So I think probably we'll do like a div here for that. And we'll move this up. So we'll make the header whatever color this is. Looks like it's gray 800. BG gray 800. Something I've been experimenting with lately that I didn't used to do and I'm starting to actually appreciate is using fixed heights for things. I used to always kind of think of it as bad, like better to use padding and stuff. But the problem is when you've got such a variety of content here, like the padding is always just based on whatever the tallest element is. And that element could change and mess things up. So lately I've actually been really enjoying just using fixed heights. So like in Tailwind, this is going to be H14, which I don't think is in Tailwind currently, but we're going to be extending the spacing scale to support our needs here. And then here we'll do like a container class, probably with like PX6 or something like that. MX auto, so it's centered. And then for this nav, this will probably be like a flex justify between, so that we get things on the two different sides. And for each of these links, we've got like font size 14, medium white. So let's just do that quickly. Text SM, font medium, text white. We're gonna want some space between that stuff too, but we can kind of figure that out in the next step. Let's just see where we're at here. So This is a disaster, so let's just get this stuff working. So we're going to want this to be flex too, so everything goes beside each other in a predictable way. And we're going to want this to be flex. All right, and now this input is all stretched out, which is kind of funny. So let's just do items center, and we'll do the same thing for this one. Item center, and honestly, probably this one too. All right. So now let's size this image. So I think we said we were going to do 32 pixels, which I think is H8W8, and rounded full. Okay. Even that kind of seems kind of big. Yeah, it's like a little bit too big because maybe not. This header seems big. Am I doing my math incorrectly here? It says it's 56 pixels. You know what it is? It's the resolution of the monitor playing tricks on me, because we have because it's set to such a low resolution on this giant 32-inch monitor. I'm expecting things to be smaller. Okay, so we've got, this has a height. I think I'm going to move the height to here. And that should get the centering behavior better. Okay, now that's looking like a good start. Let's see what we've got for like distance between these links. 28 pixels. That's 7 in Tailwind, so we can do that. Now, depending on what we want like the active state and stuff to be for this, that could change things. Like if Steve he's got 16, and he's got this with like, okay, so he's kind of imagining this as like having a solid background. So let's kind of do that too. So this is one of those situations where I'm trying to think, well, should we use a fixed height for this or should we use padding? We could probably just use padding. All right. So let's grab all these. We'll do letting none so that we don't have any line height messing with us. We'll go over here. We'll say px3 because I think he had a padding of 12. And then he's got a vertical padding of 8. So that's going to be py2. Okay. And now the space between the different things is 16. So for at least these, we're going to do ml4. And for the space between this and the logo, we've got 25, which is not really like a Tailwind thing. Like it's kind of like 6. We'll just do ml6 on this one. I could be convinced to even put a wrapper around this and space the wrapper from the logo. All right, so that's what's like our actual resolution here? Oh wow! See, we're only working with 800 pixels of width here. So that's kind of limiting for sure. Let's bring this to like 1280. And let's see, what's like the most we can get zoomed here? I don't have Css installed on this computer yet, otherwise we could maybe tinker with that a bit. This will probably be fine though. This will kind of keep us like at a similar, well, you know what, let's set this to 50 exactly. And then we can just kind of design this way. And then I can set this to exactly 50% too, which is, this is probably that. Yeah. So now at least we can compare them. And then we'll just like go back to full zoom for details and stuff. Okay, so let's do this search. So we got a 6 pixel border radius, height of 36, gray 900. Class equals H9 BG gray 900 rounded MD. Okay. And we'll have to think through what like the focus state and stuff should be. Placeholder search. And we're gonna have to do this icon. So let's grab the magnifying glass. Oh, we got SVG already. So OBS still alive here? Yeah, okay. All right, so this input, we're gonna need to like wrap this in something else so that we can get this SVG in the right place. So this is a stroke again. So get rid of this, fill none, Storky. Class equals, let's just see. It's probably the built-in size or Steve's default size, 6. And what do we got for the actual thing? 600. Now this is using a slightly older color palette. We've been tweaking the color palette a little bit. So it might be, we might want to do 700 at this point. 600 actually, maybe 600 will be fine. Let's see. That's probably okay. So we'll give this a class of relative. We'll give this a class of absolute. No, sorry. We'll wrap this in a span. Absolute inset y 0 left 0 flex item center. Get that to kind of show up in the right spot, and then we need to do a little bit of padding on the left. Steve's got 9 because he's a animal. Oh wait, maybe I'm. What's he actually got here? 11. He's still an animal. That's going to be annoying. So we want like padding left. Probably 3, get 12 pixels. And then for this input, we're gonna wanna do like padding left 8 or something. 10. Do we dare go 12? I think that's too much. I think we did add an 11, but I'm hesitant to depend on it. And then I think we actually want this to be like text small, because I think Steve's using 14 pixels as his default size for this sort of thing. All right, so there's that. Probably need to have some text in there that's visible. So we'll do text white. Now for our focus state, let's do a white background on focus. And then we can do focus text gray 900. Yeah, that seems all right. And we won't do an outline since we've got other focus styles now. Okay, like that's pretty good, I would say. And then for this, I mean, we could just leave that the same color. It's kind of a tricky one, right? Because it's a little bit hard to change that color. One way that we could do it, just like for anyone who's curious, let's just like close this for a second so we can see this closer up. So if we wanted this icon to have like a different color when this is focused, we could do this kind of cool trick by, see, we've got a lot of custom stuff going on in this config file right now. In our text color, we could enable the focus within variant. Now this isn't supported in IE11, but I think it's supported in most other browsers out of the box. Maybe not though. Then here we could do focus within text gray 500, and then we could just get rid of this and define it up here. And just like for fun, let's just make it like text red 500. So we should be able to see like, yeah, now the icon changes color when the input is focused, even though the input's a different element. So this is kind of cool because it gives you some control over that. So here we have 500, but like we could probably even go as light as 400 on focus. Yeah, like that looks pretty good to me. Okay. Let's do this notification icon. Oh, this is the different notification icon. It's this one. We made a boo-boo. All right. So that's actually not going to be like this. It's going to be a fill one. Current color and H6W6. Text gray. I think this has become text gray 400 in the updated color palette. Yeah. Okay, and then we have some space between this stuff. So that's like, it says 37, but it's not because it's probably more like 32 when you account for the fact that this is inside of a frame. And then probably the same there. So that's like 8. One thing I've been experimenting with is this new concept of like space helpers in Tailwind. I think I have them in here. Yeah. So instead of having to do like what I would normally do, where I would say, you know, ML8 here and ML8 here, but nothing on the first element, just on the parent, you just specify how you want things spaced out. And that kind of gives you that right spacing. Now, I'm hesitant to put this in Tailwind by default because it feels like, I don't know, it's kind of a little too abstract and magical. But some people have suggested some other ideas, like maybe coming up with like a variant that's like not first ML8, you know what I mean? But this is kind of confusing too, because here you're talking about the children, not talking about the current element. You have to do like something like this, children not first. And that's just like a little verbose. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of just having a utility that's kind of smart like this. Maybe it feels like a little bit not the same as Tailwind's other utilities, but it just feels so useful that it's hard for me to not want to do it. Now, the benefit to doing it like with this approach is you can imagine wanting to do something like border T, right? So it's not really just about like spacing. The same approach of only applying something to everything except the first element. There's other situations where you want that too. So have to think through what the best solution is. For now though, let's kind of just do it with the SpaceX thing. It's kind of fun. And maybe we can do the same thing for up here. So see, I had ML4 for all these, then ML6 for this one. Here, instead, I might do something like div, class, flex, items, center, space x4. So all the links are auto-spaced that way. Get rid of this ML6, and then at its easiest, you know, we could just add the ML6 back here and get the same results. Or we could even jump up here and say space x4 to space out, or space x6 to space those out. So something like that is kind of neat. I don't know. It's kind of nice and declarative. All right, so we got like this kind of header thing in place. Just like for the sake of maybe moving on to some other fun stuff, why don't we just drop it and move on to the next chunk of stuff. Okay, so now we've got this like other section after the header. I guess we'll have like a main section here with a div. And this div is going to have a white background with that little shadow at the bottom, and then there's going to be a container inside that div. And then inside that container is where we're going to have our actual content. So it's kind of div city over here. So this is going to be BG white, and then what does Steve got for this? It's like shadow, just the default shadow. Let's bring the UI back here. And then you have a container, MX Auto PX6. Again, that's just arbitrary. We haven't really taken that from the design. It's just because we know we want it centered and probably to adapt to the breakpoints. And then inside the container, we have our actual content. So we could make the container a flex, our like flex container that holds this stuff, but I kind of like the container just being like the box that it sits in. So I think I'll do that here instead. So we're going to do flex, item center, probably justify between. And this is the sort of header that I think, like we could try and think about doing this with like some sort of fixed height. But that kind of feels like a bad idea in this case. Feels like this should be more adaptive. So now we've got Ricardo on the left here. And maybe that'll be like our H1. And we've got like a link up here to go back to like the job title, I guess. And then on the right, we've got some actions like disqualify, advance to offer. So we're going to have button, disqualify, advance, whoops. And then we've got these like two chevron deals. So why don't we just grab those icons so that we have everything in place, and we'll grab this avatar too. I guess we'll do a div here. Flex, item center. Now, if only we could find the same images as Steve. Let's say man, profile, photo, glasses. Will we find him? Where are you, Ricardo? These don't look like men to me. These mostly look like glasses. We might need to find a new Ricardo. Actually, yeah, I've met this guy. That's funny. I met him at a ConvertKit conference a couple years ago. I don't know. This guy looks like he's eager for a job opportunity. So we can make it him. So fit to face area, and face pad equals 2, and H equals 256. And W equals 256. We probably don't actually need an image that big, but when you reduce this down to 50% size, it's like nice and crisp. All right. Okay, so yeah, this is looking perfect. So now I was gonna grab those icons. So Steve's kind of been, I think it's these big icons. So this is a stroke. Let's see what we got. So the size of this is actually 14 by 7. So if this is 14 by 7, then we know it's the same. Yep. So that means we can just do H6W6 and kind of move on. Gray 600, which I think is now gray 500. We added another dark one. And we'll just grab the other one too. I'll show you a cool little thing actually. If in case we were being really lazy and we just wanted to reuse the same one, Tailwind has transform utilities now. So we could just do transform rotate 90, rotate 180. And now we have both. Kind of cool. But that's kind of silly when we have the actual icon here. So we'll just grab this path out. It's so simple, holy. One thing I'd like to be able to do one day is read what the hell these paths mean. I truly don't have the first clue about how to like read what this is. Okay, cool. So let's go back to Figma here. So here we got another icon. Oh, that looks like it's probably this small chevron. So this is going to be a div. This is going to be an inline flex container. Okay, I already pasted that in. Didn't optimize it. Okay, now what is the size of this? So this is by default 8 by 4. So if this is 8 by 4, then we'll know we can just render it at the regular size. Yeah, so that's convenient. So that is again an H6W6. And this is using strokes. We decided to make this new icon set using strokes instead of fills, because then if you want to kind of like tweak the feel of the icon set, you can do it by adjusting the stroke width right in your code, which is kind of cool. I'll have to show you an example. Text gray 400. We don't really have a good fancy icon here. I mean, I'll show you anyways. So we have this little, this little SVG here. If we wanted to, we could like get rid of the stroke width attribute here, or I mean, we could just leave it. But you can see we can bump the stroke width up to 3. We can bring it down to 1. And the shape is all still preserved because it's all just kind of being drawn dynamically, which is kind of cool. If we used a fill, then like sort of the chunkiness of the line would be static. You wouldn't be able to control that yourself. Okay, so we'll do items center on this. We'll wrap this in a span so that we can control the spacing better. We'll head back over to Figma. So this is going to be 14 text gray 500. Text SM text gray 500. It looks kind of weird the way that that's centering. is working. This is one of those things where sometimes it feels like you have to do line height 1. It improves it. But that always kind of feels like a weird thing to do too. Because it's being centered relative to the line, not relative to the text. Now, oddly enough, like, see how weirdly this, it's weird. It's like 1.5 is particularly bad for some reason. Interesting. If we did, yeah, I guess we'll get rid of the leading on it, but that feels kind of silly that that works that way. Leading, none. Okay. All right. So, real Ricardo, that's H12, W12. Oops. Not fake Ricardo that we've got over here. And here we've got font size 30. What would that be in Tailwind? Does this extension tell us that? Text LG. I need to get a Brad who maintains this extension to add some pixel values. That'd be kind of cool. So LG is 18, XL is 20, 2XL is 24, so this is probably 3XL. And text grain 900 just to be safe, and font extra bold. And for space, we've got 15 pixels, so we'll call that 16 pixels. Just do a space X4 here. Now this is interesting. See how these are really not aligned at all? Is that just because, oh, this icon. See how big this icon's view box is relative to the actual icon size? That means that in Steve's design, it goes all the way to the edge, but our icon is drawn with a much smaller canvas. So we're going to do something kind of sneaky, and I'll have to ask Steve what he thinks about this. We're just going to take this icon. We are going to take this and center it, and we're just going to reduce this to be like 12 by 12. Man, part of me even wants to like really go tiny on it, but that's not going to work. I guess 12 is the smallest we can go. Now the thing that sucks is we're still not going to be able to get this to go all the way to the edge. But this will be probably a little bit better. Let's just see how it turns out. This is one of the trickiest things about icons. So we'll just grab this, move it down there, change this view box to 12. And then we can drop this to 3 since we cut everything in half. All right, that actually looks quite a bit better and probably good enough. So we'll get rid of the stroke color. Now we'll add some space in between, which we didn't need before, but Steve's got 10, which is probably more like 8 when you account for the fact that this view box has got some stuff going on. So let's just do like space X2. I like the space X thing. It's pretty cool. All right, and then this to here is 16. So I mean, like we can do some space Y here if we wanted to too. Now, I don't know that I would actually do this, but what did I say that was? 16-ish? So 4? That seems like too much when we actually look at it. Let's try 3. Just kind of eyeball it. And then for 19 pixels, that is unfortunate, Steven. Because that's like 4.75, so I guess we could do H5 or PY5. Do that right here. Yeah, I'm using the Canary version of Tailwind, plus it's got all sorts of customizations. Not crazy customizations, this looks like a lot, but this is just us trying to figure out good default styles for the custom forms plugin. But I've got some custom stuff like more spacing values. We've tweaked some of the default colors a little bit. Added a couple extra shadows that I needed. All this stuff I'm going to kind of figure out what we actually need and make sure that it's in Tailwind by default as much as possible, because I don't really want people to need to pull in a custom config to do this stuff. All right, so we got some buttons here. So both these buttons are going to share a lot of properties, so let's just do them together. It's going to be H9 because it's 36 pixels. PX, looks like Steve's got a PX4, but maybe not on this one. This one's a PX12, this one's a PX4, or sorry, a PX3. I think we should probably be consistent on those. Now this one's got a border, a 200 gray border. Border gray 200. And these are all 14 pixel font, I think, too. So let's text small, font medium. I'll probably tag 1.0 for forms like sometime before we release Tailwind UI. SpaceX isn't in the documentation. It's not even in Tailwind itself. It's just a custom utility that I'm experimenting with. If I decide to keep it, it'll get added to the docs, but it might not get added to the docs because it might be thrown away. The way that SpaceX works is it's like the selector looks like this. SpaceX for star plus star, margin left, 1 rem basically. So that's kind of the CSS for it. So that what this is doing is it's targeting this element, right? So it's targeting children of this, but it's only targeting children that have a previous sibling. So this is kind of, it's kind of the equivalent of doing this. I think that's basically the same. All right, so back to this. So we've got text gray 700 for this one. And I think they both have a really subtle shadow. This is our new shadow for Tailwind 1.2. Now, Steve hasn't added it to this one, but I know that he would want it there, so I'm going to add it. Poop. What am I doing? Can't even use a text editor. Shadow SM. So it's like a really subtle shadow. You do like, it's actually, this is a good place to look at it. You can kind of, there's no way this will show up in the stream actually, but you can see there's like just barely a shadow there. I don't really want to share the config file till I know that it's worth sharing, because if I share something that is still like totally an experiment and then people think this is how I do things, I don't know, that seems bad. All I've really done is updated some colors, because we've been adding a 50 version of each color, like an extra light version. And in doing that, we kind of tweaked some of the existing ones to make sure that the scale still felt good. Most of the colors are unchanged though. Spacing, all I've literally done is added 2 pixels because I needed it. Added 6 pixels, added 10 pixels, and added 14 pixels. I might not keep all these. And then I've added some bigger ones. We added an MD border radius. This is in Tailwind 1.2 already. I added some max widths that match the breakpoints. This is in Tailwind 1.2 already. I added Inter as the default font family. This is in 1.2 already. I tweaked the default outline shadow to be not as prominent because we decided to combine it with a blue border. So yeah, it looked ridiculous. It was too much. I added the same thing but for red, for like invalid inputs. I added this solid white shadow. I still have no idea how I'm actually going to do this in the real version of Tailwind. So that's a good example of why I don't really want people just copying this blindly. Then I added a 1/4 with height because I needed that for an avatar thing. I might just add all of our percentage widths to all of the spacing related stuff. And then this custom form stuff is basically just copied from the plugin, but I just inlined all of it so I can edit it if I want to. I added some custom variants. Well, not custom variants, but I kind of added a custom variants config. So I added active states for background color, group hover for a bunch of things. I added focus for Z index because I ended up needing that. And then this is my custom SpaceX plugin, which I just put together quickly here. And then I pull in the custom forms plugin. I never use font sizes smaller than 12 pixels. Even in this UI that you're looking at now, the smallest one is 14. So don't have great advice for you there, unfortunately. All right, BG Indigo 600, pretty sure. Text white. So that should get us our button. And maybe we'll just like zoom this out like to 80% so we can kind of work on it a little bit more reasonably. Yeah, that's a little better. And for spacing here, we've got 12 pixels, so let's do flex on this so that everything is nicely aligned. And ML3. Now these, where's the frame? 22. I think you could make a good case that that these buttons are kind of like in a group, and that these buttons are kind of in a group. And then, you know, if we wanted to, we could make this like a space X3. Let's just like keep pushing it with the spacing stuff and see how we like it. And what did we say this was? 22. So like that's not a Tailwind thing. So we can either call that 5 or 6. Let's just try 5 first. And now between this and the button, we've got 25, which is, I would say, SpaceX 6. I kind of like that it's called SpaceX because it feels like Elon Musk-ish. I would say, like, if anything, these could probably come closer together. Like, way closer together? I don't know if I'm just deviating from Steve's design at this point. I mean, that's probably fine. 600? Yeah, so... get all this crap out of here. All right, now what has Steve got for alignment here? It looks like he's vertically centered these, whether that's kind of ideal or not. I could imagine like wanting kind of this row to contain the buttons instead of having them centered here. That's something I'll just have to ask him about. Space X is not really a new name for anything. It's a new utility. Talked about it earlier on the stream. Basically, this is what it does. It's an OWL selector for margin left and margin top to just put space between things. Saves you from having to do like ML2 on every element in a list except the first one. Vertical center was intentional. All right, Steve. All right. If you can live with that decision. All right, so let's move on to the grid stuff. So, you know what? Why don't we do this with CSS Grid for fun too? Because why not? It's kind of fun. So, where the hell is this? Okay, so now we got like another section down here. We can do let's just do a background color on the whole body. So this like gray 100 will just kind of jump up to our main imaginary body element here. And yeah, okay. Is that the same color? Looks darker here. This is F1, F5, F9. There's no way this is the same color. Oh, you know what it is? Let's min-H screen this for a second. And this is actually yeah, okay, there we go. Okay, so now we got this section here. We could probably just make this a container. Let's kind of spread it out a little bit so we have kind of some land markers for ourselves here. We'll say like main content area. Now in a real project, like, you would have all this stuff as kind of components or broken up probably, so you wouldn't really need these labels, but when you're just kind of building a huge screen all at once like this, it can be kind of nice. All right, so we got some columns. What did Steve do for the grid? So it's like a 12 column grid. We've got 8 and 4. I swear I had a keyboard shortcut for this setup. Okay, so let's do this with CSS Grid. I don't even know how to do that with CSS Grid off the top of my head. I think it's grid. Grid calls. I guess we could just do 4. Since it's a 12 column grid, but really that's just a 4 column grid in our case. And then we're going to have a div. It's going to be like call span 3. And then another div that's like call span 1. And then we've got some padding between them, so that's 20. So I guess that's going to be like call gap, grid gap, gap 5. All right, so this should like give us our grid. We probably won't be able to see it yet. Yeah, there's our kind of our grid. Oh, 8 and 4. You are so much better at math than me. Smart. Very smart. Very smart man. All right. So now in here, we're going to have kind of like a div for this chunk, a div for the chunk below. And this will, I guess, be like an H2. So let's just do that. Overview, class, text, LG, font, medium, text, gray, 900. I think if you're doing legit grid layouts, CSS Grid is a little bit less verbose, and you have to do some weird, less weird tricks. Like with Flexbox, you always have to do this kind of like negative margin annoying thing. which is always kind of gross. So let's think about how do we want to accomplish the padding between these two sections. I think I'm inclined to say that let's try like a px6 here. What's this? py6. Yeah, I think this will be fine. All right, so we've got like a card here. So we'll give that a div with like a BG white rounded MD 6 pixels and like a shadow. And now inside of this card, we've got, it looks like, what's the gap here? 22. We've got something that's got px6. The y I'm not sure about. And I don't know if Steve really like made this gap exactly what he wanted either. Might be kind of open to interpretation. And this is going to be kind of like the top section of the card. And then we've got this section down here, which looks like it's got like a py4 or something. Where's the frame for this? No frame? Well, you can imagine that this is probably, the frame probably extends to like here. So it's probably like 16 pixels of padding. All right, so we'll do .px4 or 6.py4 for this one. And this will have like a button for read full application. And where's our down chevron, our big down chevron? It's this one. And this I think is probably BG gray 50. I don't know, whatever. Okay, so now this button is going to be inline flex. Now, one question I'm having in my mind is like, do you think this whole bar should be clickable, or should it just be kind of like clicking the actual button area? My gut says the button area. I'm like 60-40 on that. So this is text small, font medium, gray 500. Okay, and now this chevron color is gray 400. Space X2? I don't know. And what does letting none do in this case? This whole letting none thing is really kind of a funky issue. I'm really surprised that changing the line height affects like how something's positioned. Is it just like by 1 pixel? Basically, yeah, it's weird. It's just 1 pixel depending on exactly what you set the line height to. All right, so let's make sure that we do overflow hidden on this. It looks like maybe this padding that we added is a little too much. I think we should do this line height on, no, okay, so let's go with like PY2 maybe. Yeah, that's looks like pretty reasonable, I think. Might be a little shorter than Steve's. All right, so you guys want it to be full width, eh? Your wish is my command. All right, so now we've got a button. It's not going to be the full bar, although we could make it the full bar. Should we make it the full bar? Let's make it the full bar. So now we're going to just move a bunch of stuff into the button itself. Maybe we still do a div for it. Yeah, seems fine. All right, so now we have like a description list up here. So what is that, DL? This is going to be like application for back-end developer. Got to be consistent with our stuff here. I don't know. I'm partial to the hyphen. Now I'm pretty sure that we're allowed to do this, which I think is going to be pretty key. How should this wrap? Do you think these are grouped together? Like these two and these two? Or do you think it's this and then this? This is contact information, so I could see these both being together. Okay, so let's do it as 2 rows. Can do this as just like CSS Grid too, I guess. Grid calls to and then literally don't even need to do anything. This will just kind of work. Salary, expectation, email, phone. I mean, I could do it using terrible string values, but what I'm trying to do right now is just make it look like the design. So that's always something that I like to play around with later. Okay, so 14 medium, gray 500, since everything's shifted a little bit. And then 16 regular gray 900. This is kind of like the default, so what is it, font normal? Sometimes it feels like it's good to just be explicit though. And then for the grid gap, we'll do like, so that's 38, call that probably 32. Yeah. It's pretty good. One second. Hello? Just live streaming. Okay. I feel like I don't have a lot of energy today for some reason. Ricardo Cooper at example.com +1 555 987 6453. That's my phone number. Okay, so what do we got for like the gap between this and this? 13. It's definitely something, right? It's probably like at least an MT2. Maybe not even. That actually looks pretty close. And we got some space between this and this. 19 pixels, but accounting for some line height. That's probably... what am I doing here? Okay, overview. I mean, like, that's probably pretty close. Then I guess we'll do this little table. This is kind of an interesting one. We have like a definition list for this stuff, and like the attachment sort of takes the same form, but I would say it's probably not a definition list. I don't know. Yeah, we need a little bit more vertical padding. So maybe we'll just make it square for now. So what markup? Yeah, can you do that? HTML UL inside DD. Sounds like maybe it's fine. This is not useful. I'd like to see an example of like a complex DD value. Tough one. Feels kind of weird to me. Yeah, I mean, it's valid, but I just wonder, like, will screen readers kind of treat it weirdly? Not sure. That's fine, though. Let's just do a div here. We'll do class equals call span to. And we'll just do another DT in here. And, oops. Figure this out. So this is just going to be a list, I guess. Let's get rid of everything except the margin. And this is going to have an icon, and then probably this will be a link, and this will be a link. Where is our download icon? Or attachment icon, I guess it is. Paperclip. There it is. Okie doke. Paste that in. And then we'll do a link that has a file name and another link that says download. What did we do here? Resume. Yeah. Seems good. Okay. This stroked. Yep. So we've got gray 400 again, because everything's kind of shifted by 1 now. I'm guessing this is probably the default icon size. Maybe. This is 16 pixel text. Let's do that. Is the download button the same, or is that 14? 14, okay. So if the download button is different, then we'll just do this here. Text base, text gray, 900. Text SM. We'll do flex, align, or items baseline, maybe. I don't know what this is going to do to the icon. That's my only concern. Let's just center them. This will be font medium. This is kind of like Steve's new, he's kind of redone Heroicons from scratch, Heroicons UI. But it'll all be totally free. So this is kind of what he's done so far. He's also working on like some slightly smaller solid icons for different situations. And then some filled icons that are the same size, which can be useful for like kind of icon states and stuff. It's kind of, yeah, it should be pretty cool. All right, so 2 ways that we could do the alignment here. We could kind of group this together and then put this over to the side with justify between. Or another trick that not everybody knows is you could use like ML auto here to push that over. Let's do that, keep the markup a little simpler. And then for this kind of, we've got 12, so we'll do like an ML3 here. Okay, so let's just duplicate this. I think this said like cover letter. And then we'll do this stuff. So we've got a border gray 200, since that's wrong. Rounded MD. And this is actually a good example of where we might want to do that whole kind of border between concept. So you can imagine how you might want to do like a some sort of variant like this, like maybe like between border T or something. Maybe this is cool, maybe not. It's kind of weird because it's not clear that it means like everything except the first one. But I could see it kind of being an interesting approach. For now though, we'll just do it right on this element. Border T, border gray 200. And then probably we just need to add some padding around the whole thing. 12 and 16. So this is going to be PX4, PY3. And I think after we kind of just finish this little card, I gotta run. We'll have to figure out some wrapping stuff here, but generally I think that looks pretty decent. Yeah, so maybe tomorrow when I have some time to hack on this a little bit more, I'll live stream it again because it's kind of fun to do and people seem to dig it. But for now, I am going to jet, and Steve is actually on his way to my house to lift weights because we are alpha males. So we'll be doing that. So thanks for checking out the stream. Hopefully you picked up a trick or two. Yeah, and hopefully catch you at the next one. See ya.